Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees. It is June 11th. Our first order of business, of course, is the Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight, we're going to be led by Pleasantdale Middle School named Kylie Prock. She's in 6th grade. And according to her principal, Griffin Sontag, her mom and dad are both doctors. And our older sister, Megan, is starting high school in the fall. She has 3 guinea pigs, loves drawing, gymnastics, used to do taekwondo. Her favorite subjects in school are science and art. She also likes to play board games with her family. So I'd like to invite her to the front of the room.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kylie. Karen, may I have roll call, please?
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Model.
Here.
Trustee Paveza.
Here.
Trustee Montal.
Yes, here.
Trustee Snyder. Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Mayor Straub.
Here. Now, the residents' comments section. Are there any residents who'd like to address the board at this time? Keep in mind, of course, you're always you're able to approach now and/or on topic. Amy, would you like to address the board?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll need to come to the microphone. Identify yourself.
Hi, good evening. First of all, thank you all. I'm Stuart Hanson of Village of Burr Ridge, and also I'm the president of our homeowners association at Lake Ridge Community, and also currently serving on the District 86 caucus committee for the school board for the upcoming election in 2019. I had a couple questions specifically regarding the charge of the local school committee that's been formed and been gathered. 4 questions specifically, if you could address that. I know the meeting minutes for the last 2 meetings are on the agenda tonight. Number 1, I'm specifically curious about the village's financial commitment to the local school committee and what's involved in the legal support, et cetera, and with respect to the complaints that are either being drafted. I'm sorry. Should I redo that?
It's if they want.
Would you like me to redo that? I don't know if it's for posterity. I have no idea. I can start from the.
I repeat the question, and remember, we only have 5 minutes, and this is really not a.
Okay.
It's not a town hall meeting, but we'll
No problem.
try to do the best we can.
No problem. Stuart Hanson, a Village of Burr Ridge resident. Just a couple of quick questions regarding the local school committee that's been formed by the village. In particular, I'm curious about the village's financial commitment to the school committee in terms of especially the legal drafting of the complaint that's allegedly been filed. I don't know if it's been filed. And also, that's a great noise.
Our village administrator had to answer that question. Any idea on financial commitment so far? Is it
For the
school committee?
relative to the District 86 issues,
Yes.
there's been no money spent by the village. The attorney is working pro bono for the
What about prior to the pro bono attorney?
prior to the formation of the committee.
Yes.
There were some money spent with legal fees on presenting the village board with different issues, different perspectives on some of the local school issues.
Okay. Thank you. I had a couple more questions if we have time. Second is, what's the status of the administrative complaint? Do we know if that's been filed, or is that not village business? I don't know.
Actually, it was by the residents, not by us, so I'm not sure. Zach, do you know?
Well, it is the residents in their hands at this point, but they did file it, yes,
did file it,
June
okay.
1st.
And then in the meeting minutes, I noticed that for the school committee that are in front of you tonight for approval, I noticed there's discussion about a secondary complaint currently being drafted and also a potential advisory referendum. Any comments that you can provide regarding either of those?
I have no idea.
Was that just business of the school committee?
I'm not on the school committee, but
The agendas and minutes of the school committee are on our website.
Okay, and are all of those meetings here and open meetings as well? Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had.
okay, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
No, leave it on.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Anyone else like to address the board this time? Okay. Under the consent agenda, we have the, otherwise known as the, otherwise known as the omnibus votes. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the village board. They'll be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so request, in which event the item will be removed. Under minutes, 5A, approval of regular board meeting of May 14th, 2018. B, receive and file draft Economic Development Committee meeting of May 15th, 2018. C, receive and file draft Plan Commission meeting of May 21st, 2018. D, receive and file local school committee meeting of May 10th and draft of meeting of May 24th, 2018. Under ordinances, we have 6C, approval of an ordinance approving a variation from the Village of Burr Ridge zoning ordinance to permit a fence taller than 5 feet in height for V02 2018 located 3 Morgan Court, Arguris. Under resolutions, we have 7C, adoption of a resolution accepting subdivision improvements for the Buck Trail Estates subdivision at 8010 to 8050 Buck Trail Road or Drive. C, under resolutions, adoption of resolution approving an amended mutual aid agreement for the Northern Illinois Police Alarm System. Under considerations, we have 8C, approval of recommendation to purchase wide format scanner. D, approval of recommendation to award a change order for the Village Hall chiller replacement contract to Dynamic Heating and Piping Company of Crestwood, Illinois, in the amount of $1,920 for a final contract amount of $985.11. E, approval recommendation to purchase police vehicle to replace vehicle that was totaled in an accident. F, approval recommendation to upgrade the village's wireless network backbone system in the amount of $67,113.32. G, approval of formation of a bicycle committee. H, approval of mayor's nomination to appoint trustee Tony Schiappa as chairperson of the bicycle committee for a term expiring May 1st, 2019. I, approval of mayor's nomination to appoint Michael Plaskanka, Paul Castelvi, and Chris Sword as members of the bicycle committee for terms expiring May 1st, 2020. J, approval of mayor's nomination to appoint Louisa Hawk and Elaine Layden to the bicycle committee for terms expiring May 1st, 2022. K, receive and file retirement letter from accounting clerk Sandra G. Carmen, effective June 8th, 2018. L, approval of recommendation to hire a replacement to fill a vacancy created by the retirement of Sandra Carmen. M, approval of a request from Burr Ridge Park District for donation from Hotel Motel tax funds for the Park District's 2018 Harvest Fest event. N, approval of appointment of Len Ruzak to the Veterans Memorial Committee for a 3-year term expiring June 1st, 2021. O, approval of fiscal year 17-18 vendor list in the amount of $431,651.86 for all funds, for a grand total of $431,651.86, which includes special expenditures of $46,878 to Curry Motors for a 2017 Ford F550 SD 4x4 and $67,184 to Curry Motors for extra snowplow equipment purchased April 2018. And P, approval of fiscal year 18-19 vendor list in the amount of $297,239.88 for all funds, plus $275,728.48 for payroll, for a grand total of $572,968.36, which includes special expenditures of $74,891.50 to Ducom for quarterly shares, that's made in July 2018, and $59,700 to U.S. Bank for the Police Department facility bond interest payments.
Excuse me, Mickey, could you remove item 6C? A resident would like to talk about item 6C.
Which one?
Item 6C, please. There's a resident that would like to talk about it.
6C.
Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? 5A, B, C, and D. 6, nothing under 6, under resolutions. We have 7B and C. Under considerations, we have 8, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, and P. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Morrow?
Yes.
Trustee Scalpa?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Beza?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
5-0.
Okay, under ordinances, we have consideration of approval of an ordinance amending the spectrum planned unit development. Doug?
Is that like Evan to present the ordinances? We've prepared these ordinances in response to the board's direction to prepare these ordinances. If you have any other further questions, or if Evan has anything to add, please do so. Go ahead, Evan.
Thank you, Judge Administrator. This is items 6A and B, again, just discussing these kind of in one discussion just for ease. The first is to amend the PUD ordinance and the special use at 9101 Kingery Highway for McDonald's. This site was discussed at May 14th at your previous board meeting. You had approved a motion to direct staff to prepare ordinances for both the amendment for special uses as well as a sign variation for the McDonald's that was proposed to go there. Again, the first item is 6A, the ordinance for special uses. There are two. The first is for a single tenant restaurant building, and the second is for drive-through service facilities accessory to said special use. The terms and conditions of the approval included those recommended by the Planning Commission, and the board also requested that the stone in the building elevations be made of a natural material instead of a man-made material. That ordinance is attached. The sign variation that is in front of you is also for the McDonald's. Also authorized staff to prepare this at the previous board meeting. This is to permit 4 wall signs on the property, 1 on each elevation. There was a request by the board that the sign on the easternmost elevation facing Spectrum be lowered and reduced in size as part of the ordinance. And again, that has been made part of the ordinance that's in front of you tonight. If you have any additional questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them for you now.
Board members have any questions yet? Okay, Doug? Trustee Scapa?
I think it's a defining moment in Burridge history as we decide that what people will see and experience as they enter into our fine village. So over the past few weeks, I've traveled through that intersection in 91st and Route 83. I live about a mile away from that intersection. And during my travels of that intersection during different times of the day, I noticed that there's quite a bit of traffic there, especially in the later hours. And I understand there's been traffic studies done, but without anything completed, the traffic that's there, I was thinking about the Spectrum Living Center, which would be about 192 units once it's completed. Thinking about the traffic of the visitors, the employees, the suppliers, the vendors, and some of the residents that are going to go in and out of there. And then we add to McDonald's, the same thing. The employees, the visitors, suppliers, vendors, and I'm just, a new concern came over me over, are we really addressing that traffic issue at 91st and Route 83? And I don't know, I know that the traffic people speculate and make assumptions, but what happens if they're wrong or when they're wrong, because they're not always right. What do we do? Is there something that we can do in the face that traffic study is wrong and we need to widen 91st Street or add more turning lanes? How do we address that when that time comes?
So the question is, if I could summarize it, is the contingency would be that if the traffic study is too conservative and the traffic volume that's generated by Spectrum is above and beyond what we think it will be based on the study, what is the village's course of action at that point to alleviate traffic concerns at that light? Well, certainly, again, just for the record, what you see there today is not the final traffic pattern that will exist in 6 months to a year. There is an additional traffic lane being widened at that point. That the left turn lane is being extended to allow for additional capacity at that light. So, while I think that's well understood by the board, I simply wanted to repeat that just for the record. The other options would be to petition the state to re-examine the signal at the light right there, the intersection. Certainly, if we're adding some traffic, which I don't think anybody argues that there will be no impact on the light there, we could certainly petition the state, and I think we plan to do that anyway as a result of the discussions that were held at the Plan Commission as well as at the board level, that we might need to look at that light anyway without adding a new service. And finally, if it simply becomes far and above beyond what we think will be added there, a lane could be added using right-of-way on one of the two sides. Certainly the southern portion of the road is village right-of-way, as the northern portion of the road is not within Burr Ridge, so it would be harder to get right-of-way from that portion of the road. But at the end of the day, it would be widening the road would be the most, be the last option, I guess, available to you, simply to add capacity at that point. I have to make two left turn lanes, or a through lane and a right turn lane, whatever the traffic configuration that would be best for the light and those using it would be. But again, the traffic studies right now don't suggest that. There's additional development across the street that doesn't suggest that will be necessary at the light. If anyone on the board is not aware, there's a development called Kingery Square that's scheduled to be put in south of the old 7-Eleven site on the west side of Route 83. Right now it's currently trees. It's about 50,000 square feet of commercial space right there, and that traffic study taken last summer says that there is no additional need to add any capacity at any of the 4 lanes on Route 83. So, while I certainly understand your point, there are options available to you should that contingency come up.
So if we have to add that 4th lane, at whose expense is that?
That would be the village's expense to widen that road, because it's our road.
Okay. I mean, is it something that we can approach McDonald's about helping in that cost?
It's certainly your prerogative to do so, yes.
So I think that, I mean, we can put something in some sort of escrow, or I think it's, because right now, the traffic, the evening traffic, there's a lot of traffic uses Madison and County Line to go south to avoid Route 83. Which ends at 91st, and then they go west to catch Route 83. So that's just the work traffic trying to get south. So I'm just concerned. I just want to make sure that that we have the capability to address any issue when traffic starts building up. Because when McDonald's is moving, I think it's 2/5 of a mile in spending. I'm not sure what the project cost is to move north 2/5 of a mile. Not to be the same. They want to grow and expand, which I understand. And with that comes the traffic along with it. So, and that impacts that intersection there.
Certainly. Yes, but again, if that was a major concern of the board, it would be your prerogative to ask the petitioner for some sort of agreement, or to enter into some sort of agreement as you're postulating, I should say, sorry, regarding that issue.
So I'd like to ask my fellow trustees for their thoughts.
Echo your sentiments. I mean, I've actually driven by that quite a few times since the last meeting just to see what it feels like. And, it's a very sleepy kind of a street, or used to be, but we're bringing in a lot of high activity businesses, Spectrum, McDonald's, and the gas station, which I understand is not on our property or in Burr Ridge, but all the same, they all share 91st Street. I would like to have like a plan B. I mean, in case the traffic explodes and it becomes a real difficult situation, then what are we going to do and who's going to pay for it? And plan C. And also, Now, if we were to let in traffic or let out traffic from Kingery Highway side, is that something that the Village of Burr Ridge would figure out, or is that someone else?
So we've currently scheduled to have a right-in, right-out on Kingery Highway on the southern portion of the property. You're suggesting adding a separate right-in, right-out closer to McDonald's
That would-
to alleviate the issue?
Yeah.
That is IDOT right-of-way.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, that has been not received favorably by IDOT, simply because it would become very close to the light, and we might have some site issues there. The site is only about an acre and a half in size, so it's just simply not that far from the signal going north. If you've ever come north on Route 83, there's a small hill that you crest over, and by the time you get there, you're practically on the Spectrum development. So I don't see IDOT wavering on that answer that they've given us. I know that question has been asked several times, both by staff, and I believe that the developer themselves actually inquired about that just to provide additional access to the site, but I don't think that's a possibility at this time.
What if we didn't do it, I mean, kind of like a frontage road thing, which would start where Spectrum starts on the south side, and then you could come into McDonald's on that?
Well, that's basically what's already being created with the access road. The access road will basically block off the two outlots that we're creating away from Spectrum. So if you're coming north on Route 83 and you make that right into that access road, you'll immediately be on that road. And you'll follow that either to that first outlot on the southern side, which will be something at some point, or you'll continue on that to McDonald's. The way the site plan is set up is that we've made sure that the McDonald's access is only on the southern portion of their outlot. That way it encourages people who are going north on Route 83 to continue to go back where they came from and avoid 91st Street.
Okay.
There used to be an access closer to 91st Street, but at staff's request, we asked that they remove it. We think it adds a lot less chaos within the site, a lot less conflicts. Conflicts are when you're at a stop sign and there are two cars trying to go different ways. Eliminating that has eliminated a conflict point from within the development. So what you're asking for already does exist within the proposed property. If you drive east on 91st Street, that access road in, that's the beginning of the access road that you'll be seeing from now on.
Okay. All right.
So I'm cognizant of these concerns as well. I felt that we had, talked through it and the, the traffic study. I'm trusting that the traffic studies are accurate, and I'm also cognizant that the improvements have not yet been made on 91st Street. So as we're all looking at it, it's going to get better. But I'm trusting that the traffic studies are correct. Now, if they're wrong, that would be an issue. I was wondering who's paying. Isn't Spectrum paying for the development improvements there right now?
Correct. Spectrum is paying for the initial build out to widen that road as well as to put all the engineering issues in, like the utilities. However, they've got an agreement with us that says we're going to do X to accommodate our development. Anything above that would have to come from either renegotiation between the village and them, or solely the village, or we'd have to come to some sort of agreement if we wanted to include the PUD down there.
Now, McDonald's is going to be their tenant, correct? Is that they own that land, or McDonald's will own the land?
Spectrum will be selling that land to a
To
private
McDonald's.
developer who will then be leasing the land to McDonald's.
Got it. Okay, understood. Well, I think it does make sense to plan for the best, but always prepare for the worst. So there's some thought there. There's my feeling. There's a good thought there, maybe.
Trustee DeRosa?
Over the years, the board has approved many subdivisions, many businesses, including the town center. And traffic has always been one of the main things that people want to consider and are afraid of changing their ways. What we've found out over the years, all these traffic studies are assumptions. And they're assuming this is going to happen at this time, this is going to happen at that time. And it really is hard to plan something months in advance. What we've done, and I think the board has done a good job of it, is we wait till the system's in place, we see the way the traffic operates, we see the way the businesses operate, and that's when we make the corrections that we need. And I would assume that's what we're gonna do here. I remember all the worry about the village center and other subdivisions about how the traffic was gonna affect this and Lifetime Fitness. Wait till it's in, you make your changes, you might change the stoplights a few seconds. There are other things to do. And right now, like I said, the traffic is just an assumption. So I would wait till the business is up and operating, and that's when we'll make the changes.
Francis?
Well, I have a lot of respect for the traffic engineers. They have a difficult task. They take real-time data that they measure at the site, and then they extrapolate from the developer what they expect the business to generate, and then merge that in with what they've already observed. So it's not an exact science, but it's a reasonable assumption. And for the most part, they're right most of the time, and sometimes they're not so right, not so accurate. It's difficult. It's like having a crystal ball. So again, we give them a lot of respect for what they have to do. But I do agree, we have to have a plan B should that this development make it worse. It's already problematic now. We don't have spectrum in place. It's not up and running, so we don't know what impact that's going to have. And the modifications haven't been made to the intersection that are being proposed. So I agree with Trustee Scappa. We need a plan B in case this development makes the project worse, the problem worse. So, and if the developer would be happy to share the expense, I'd be all for that.
Any other questions before I ask the public if they have any comments of Evan? And when after the public is done, we'll ask the petitioner to come up and answer any questions directly. Are there any residents who'd like to address this topic at this time?
Hi, I didn't come for this topic, but it's near and dear to my heart. I live off of 91st Street. It's Elaine Rendon Malota, 8921 Royal Drive. I agree with you, Tony. I live across from your parents. That intersection is extremely busy. I go in and out of that, egress and ingress both. I've had near accidents there with people coming off 83, going eastbound in my westbound turning lane, because they want to turn into Speedway. It is bad today. So I haven't studied this. I wasn't prepared. My only comment would be with the traffic that comes in and out of Speedway, be it Burr Ridge or not, I agree with Guy and Tony. There has to be a plan B. It is bad today. It will get worse. McDonald's is moving in part, I heard, because they're having volume problems the way the traffic patterns are down there. They're not getting the traffic both north and south. They're moving here because of whatever reason. Hopefully they think they'll get more volume, which is going to put more pressure here. So the plan B, Al and Doug, I don't know if you remember, when they developed Chasemore, I think it was McClintock Drive that was a walking path, but it was always deemed to be saved for a road to connect over to 79th Street. That over time was decided it wasn't needed. I was living at Chasemore at the time, and when Steve was here, whatever happened with the money that was set aside for that, it got redone, moved, whatever, and it was decided that pathway between the Village Shopping Center and 79th would never be built as a road, it would stay as a pathway. So my question to the board is, back to Tony's concern, can we get the developer to put some funds in escrow, wait, as Al said, for a period of time, I don't know if that's 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, or all of the above, and determine then, are those escrow funds going to be needed, and if not, return them back to the developer. I don't know if that's an option or not. I can just tell you this intersection is bad today. It is going to get worse, as you said, so that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
My name is Ray Baldy. I live in Falling Water. I obviously totally agree that we need a plan B. I think, and going up and down 91st Street consistently, going either north or south on Route 83, I think if we had three lanes on 91st Street, one going left, one going right, and one going straight, I think we might be able to solve a problem, okay? Because this happened to me just 2 days ago. I'm behind the guy that wants to go straight. I want to go north on 83, can't move. So what's my choice? Wait, go into the speedway, or try to get around this guy, maybe bump him, and I don't want to do that. Now, recognize, people, that we haven't even seen any traffic coming from the nursing homes or wherever that thing is that we're building there. We haven't seen anything on that, and people are going to be coming and going, okay? So the young lady that just made the comment about putting some money up and put it in collateralize it or put it somewhere and hold it, that's a hell of a good idea. But you want to solve the problem, 3 separate lanes. That at least gives us a chance to do what we got to do, and then see what happens as we go forward, okay? I mean, it sounds like they're coming, so they're coming, but for Christ Pete's, let's try to make it as easy as possible. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the board this time? Okay. So may I ask the petitioner to take the microphone?
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Olguin on behalf of McDonald's. So, the issue that came up and Trustee brought is, are we addressing the traffic? And, going through this process with the village, I can say that yes, the traffic is being addressed. The Plan Commission, which is the body that is the village's body of taking evidence and going over the facts and making factual determinations, which gets presented, spent multiple evenings, long evenings, going over that information. And that information was not just a traffic report, because yes, one person's opinion or even a learned individual's opinion, they can make certain assumptions that might not necessarily be accurate. But in this instance, we had multiple traffic reports. The first one was from Sam Schwartz, which did the original spectrum development. Then there was, which was at the time of that spectrum was approved, was reviewed by the village's traffic engineer. Once again, confirming the evidence that was provided. When McDonald's came in, we did our own traffic report, which was supportive of that original traffic report, and that was also reviewed on a number of occasions by the village's traffic engineer. So in terms of evidence and information, that was all that was presented to the Plan Commission, and they spent quite a bit of time reviewing it. Now, all those reports indicated that, yes, certain improvements needed to be made, and that's what's being proposed and what is being done. And those improvements, what those improvements are doing are adding a greater left turn lane and greater stacking, so you will not have as much of a backup. The addition of another turn lane or widening of 91st Street, what that would do is provide stacking, which is already happening. The critical item, I think, and which was something that Evan brought up and our traffic consultant brought up, the thing that's going to help this intersection more than anything is to petition to IDOT to check and see if they can optimize that signal. Because that is what is slowing down, that is what is hampering the movement through that intersection. So it's not the question of getting it wider, it's a question of getting the light to change so that folks can go through that intersection. So in terms of us in McDonald's, we're a tenant on this parcel, and we're a small part of a very large development. And it's a development that came into the village, was annexed to the village with these improvements as part of that annexation. So that is part of the reason that Spectrum came in and is investing and has begun millions of dollars worth of work, because they expected to have a retail parcel generating this kind of traffic with those kind of roadway expenses. Coming back after the fact to try to have additional improvements that from every professional, including the villages, say at this point is not warranted. And apparently there's also a traffic review from on the other side of Route 83, which is also indicating that it's not warranted. It doesn't make sense. And once again, we are a tenant. We don't have authority to bind, that lot. We don't have authority to bind Spectrum. And we're just not in a position to say that we're gonna, go ahead and put a contribution of funds to improvements that we don't know, to improvements that our consultants and every other consultant that has reviewed this has said is not necessary. These are improvements that this village board approved. These are improvements that your traffic consultant said is adequate for this, for this area. So, since we're not owners of these properties, and everything that we've been provided by our own consultants and the village consultants all indicate that the improvements that the Spectrum is including as part of its development is sufficient, we have to go along with that. And I know the property owner or the contract purchaser is here, and he can speak to his parcel and what his thoughts are on it. But in terms of McDonald's, this is in terms of a site. This is our smallest building. It's not a high volume site. It doesn't warrant or have the ability or the capacity to support an expenditure of roadway widening at a site like this based on the volume that we expect. From a McDonald's standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Considering the facts that have been vetted by the Plan Commission and the consultants all indicate the improvements that have been approved by this board are sufficient.
Well, Jim, stick around for a moment. I want to ask some questions for you. I'm sure the trustees do as well. First off, I think that you're coming at a good time. I think we're probably one of the most pro-business type of boards that we've had, and of course the village knows that we're all in this together. Certainly appreciate and respect McDonald's even wanting to come to this side of the street. There are two things that the residents were most concerned with that I've heard from the trustees today, as well as the residents during those meetings, that needed to be addressed. One was traffic, and the other was safety. And the question really comes down to what if the traffic studies are wrong? What happens? Either the traffic studies are certainly it is a very difficult intersection today, and it's going to get worse. Certainly McDonald's is going to be suffering for it if it becomes that bad. People aren't going to want to be coming in also. And I'm sure that McDonald's has been down this road before. This is not life and death, and it's not anything new. The McDonald's has been building tens of thousands of these around the world for a long time. What happens if they're wrong? If traffic becomes a more serious problem, and if any type of safety and security issues are addressed, what assurances can the village get, and what happens if they're wrong?
Sure. I guess let me talk about the other issue first, which is in terms of public safety, and whether there's any negative impact at the site or to an adjacent property. One of the things that that makes it fairly easy for me to do my job is the kind of corporate citizen that McDonald's is in the communities that they're located in. And in terms of having a relationship with the police department, that's something that that they're always very cognizant of. If there's any issues, the police chief can always approach McDonald's, the operator, in terms of addressing that. Same thing with anybody from from the village staff. If there's any issues that or of concerns to the trustee, that's something that can get passed along. If it means coming in to meet with any of you to try to determine how they can be addressed, that's not a problem. That's something that they do as part of their operation. If there's issues, let's figure out what items that we can do to solve them. Like I mentioned at a prior meeting, one of the McDonald's has been and is in all different types of community with all different challenges. So they know from an operation standpoint how to handle different situations. And they can, I don't think that this location is going to be a problematic one, but they have the ability to do whatever it takes to make sure that, that any concerns are addressed on that end. In terms of returning back to, to traffic, McDonald's, you're right. One of the questions is, is it a concern for McDonald's? And yes, it is, because McDonald's, at the end of the day, is a convenience business. We draw, traffic that already exists. Folks come to McDonald's because they can get in and they can get out. If from a traffic perspective, we don't have that, if we find a location that's going to be problematic, then it's not going to work from a sales perspective. That's why we also rely on that traffic report. And is there ever going to be a guarantee on any of that? No. But we believe that this location functions with the improvements that are there. And that is not just that they're basing their business determination on that as well. That it's going to function so that they don't lose that convenience business, which is their business.
And by working through those issues, has McDonald's in the past borne any of the expense in addressing those?
I don't recall McDonald's ever at an existing location having to come back and fund additional improvements again. I've been working with them for over 10 years, and I don't see that ever happening. I've never had a community ask to guarantee monetarily like that a traffic report that has been vetted as many times as this one has. And actually, I don't think I've ever had a traffic report or an intersection that has been reviewed over the number of years that it's been reviewed this many times.
Trustee, any questions of petitioner? Dave? Thank you, Jim. Discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you're just past the wire, but come on over.
Good evening. My name is Mike Stratus, 15W560. For the public record, I am a member of the Planning Commission. I am also the contract purchaser of this property. I recused myself during the Planning Commission process. I'm here tonight as the property owner. I'll apologize first and foremost. I haven't had a lot of time to prepare for this. I was out of the country and learned about this a couple hours ago. To be honest with you, I was kind of taken back by this. I've been in the development business for 30 years. I've never been asked to guarantee a traffic report. I've never heard of a community asking for a guarantee of a traffic report. And I've also not seen an application where there was 3 traffic reports. It's very usual. Again, I'm not here to snivel, but I do have a half a dozen comments that I think I need to put out there. I'll try to be brief. What you're asking for is a deviation from norm. McDonald's cannot guarantee the traffic situation, no differently than Chase can, no differently than Cooper's Hawk can, no differently than the other 500 commercial applicants in our community over the years have done. They come in, we make decisions based on the best available data. Most of the time I think it's correct, but you'll never get a McDonald's or a corporate or certainly a publicly traded company to guarantee a traffic study. Personally, as a lawyer, I think that would violate the federal Sarbanes-Oxley Act. I just don't think it'll ever happen. You've heard this, but Spectrum, we did a traffic study. Spectrum put forth a lot of money to widen 91st Street based on not only their development, but on these outparcels. Our Planning Commission heard all that during the original hearings. Those funds have already been allocated. And this component parcel, along with the other ones, has participated in those costs. If the traffic is different later, I don't know what happens in that case. I guess the answer is the same thing that happens in every case. The city addresses it at that time. In the meantime, as a lawyer, I wouldn't even know how to memorialize that type of an agreement. Would it be something along the lines of, if the traffic is materially different than what McDonald's and the other two traffic consultants said it would they pay their proportionate share? Who would decide whether it felt like the traffic was more than we thought it was? Who would pay the $25,000 to have the new traffic report conducted, to prove it out? Who would pay for it? How would it be paid for? Right now, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think McDonald's is adding 2 or 3% incremental more traffic to the intersection. Does that mean if it's $1 million improvement to 91st Street, do they pay $20,000? Again, I think it's all very, very unwieldy. I can tell you that this sort of condition would make this property unfinanceable. I could never get a loan from a bank knowing that there'd be a contingent liability, that somebody could come along later and say, you owe us 50 grand, 200 grand, whatever the number is. So I think it would really, really complicate matters. As you're aware, we spent the last year with the village board and with the planning commission reviewing our code and making it easier for businesses to come into the community. We've reduced the sign requirements. Procedurally, we've authorized staff to do things. I can't think of a more chilling proclamation to the cosmos that we're anti-development than to start putting out a position where we're going to make developers take that risk in the future. I can tell you what their argument would be. We're coming in, we're bringing in Cooper's Hawk, we're bringing in McDonald's. The city's going to get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars from the McDonald's. And if they have to pay for a road widening 5, 10, 15 years from now, that's the nature of how this works. That's the accepted practice. And lastly, I think if this is something you think is important, I really think it should be a policy statement. I think the village board should put it on an agenda, and you should put this out that you're going to do this to every applicant from now on. Because there's no difference between McDonald's and 91st Street and Route 83 than there is at the Burr Ridge Parkway and County Line Road. So again, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this. I never saw this. I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen, after a vote, the adoption of the ordinance being anything more than really a ministerial act. So none of us, McDonald's, none of us were prepared for this. Respectfully, we just don't see this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, I brought it up now. I mean, I understand it's not the norm. We're also a very special place, and so that's what I'm challenging. And that's, instead of just being, ordinance, let's stamp it and let's go. I'm just questioning, what is there a plan B, and who pays for it? And that's why I brought it up. And that's why we have these processes where we start a consideration, go to resolutions, and then we go to ordinances. It's a 3-step process for that reason exactly.
I beg to differ. It is different from the Chase Bank or Burr Ridge Parkway because that is totally a commercial area, and whereas the McDonald's is going to be placed in like a quasi-residential area. And so traffic is very important. When people come to a commercial area, when I go to Burr Ridge Parkway, I'm okay with, standing at a traffic light, and I'm alert because you don't know who's driving in that area. But when I'm going home on 91st Street, I am not in that mode, and if I have no intentions of going to McDonald's but I'm stuck in traffic over there, that's uncomfortable. So I feel that we do need to have a plan B and figure out how we're going to pay for it if we do need to come up with alternate ideas for the traffic.
trustees? Thoughts?
Well, as I said, the plan commission reviewed it. We've had, I think, 2 traffic studies. They've reviewed it. It's come before the board. We've talked about it. We know we may have a traffic problem, but we don't know exactly what type of traffic problem we're gonna have. And I just can't see making all kind of assumptions based on something that everybody is assuming. I would, like I said, the board in the past has always considered traffic, and it's always been a prime mover. But it's difficult to make all these assumptions until you see the traffic, until you see what's happening, then you can make the changes. And most of the time, it's not severe changes that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's just common sense changes. And that's all I could say is, I think we're assuming way too much right now.
Model, anything?
I'm just committed that if it becomes a worst case problem, we will address it. I hear what the petitioner said, and I appreciate their stance that they want this to flow nicely too, and they're investing a lot in expecting it to flow well. So, I guess we're in this together, and I would like to see the development come here. I would like to see the village grow, and want to be respectful of our residents and our businesses. But I trust that if it turns into a problem, this board will address it.
And speaking of which, I know village administrator is going to look into what is the risk. I mean, we're looking for reasons to say yes. I mean, we're being protective. We're being, I think, respectful of the residents down there and hearing the complaints. But what's the risk in the event the village does need to let's say add another lane? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, as Mr. O'Gean said, probably the best solution is retiming the signal, and there's no cost to the village, at least there shouldn't be. That's an IDOT thing. The risk there is that IDOT prioritizes traffic on Route 83 over traffic on 91st Street, so it's a challenge to get IDOT to consider that. I did look at if the solution were to add a right turn lane on 91st Street for westbound 91st Street. As the engineers always say, there's so many variables you can't just put a number on it. But it would probably be in the range, after talking with the village engineer, it'd probably be in the range of $375,000 to $500,000.
If that's necessary.
If you did just a right turn lane, an additional lane for westbound 91st Street for dedicated for right turns.
I'm actually pretty impressed with the location where the traffic, they're looking at bringing the traffic in this way and then around the building. They're going to
comes in at the south end.
Comes in at the south end, comes around, ordering the food here, picking it up over here, and when they exit, they're going to be almost halfway to the road they came in on.
Right.
So that's further south than I thought it was. And it's going to be a sign also saying that Route 83 north, go this way.
Right.
So it's going to be encouraged for that traffic to exit the way they came in.
Right.
And that's different from the original drawings, correct?
It is different. It's substantially different, and that was done specifically for that reason, to encourage traffic that wants to go northbound on Kingery Highway to exit to the south and avoid 91st Street.
And and over here is the main entrance for.
Right.
Gotcha, yeah. They certainly make very good points, both their attorney as well as the developer. We appreciate that. Are there any other concerns to be expressed? Questions? Any further discussion? Motions?
What are we motioning?
Do we have any motions to approve 6A?
Put it up on the,
Are we doing them together?
Oh, okay, actually, 6A and 6B. Yeah, that would be fine to put them together. Okay, can I have a motion to approve 6A and 6B, consideration of approval of an ordinance amending the Spectrum Planned Unit Development, ordinance number A 834-2415, and granting special uses pursuant to the Village of Burr Ridge zoning ordinance Z05-2018, located at 9101 Kingery Highway, Ogwen, as well as 6B, consideration of approval of an ordinance granting a variance for approval of 4 wall signs in a B2 business district, S 03-2018, 9101 Kingery Highway, Ogwen.
So moved.
second.
Okay. Been a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Model,
Yes.
trustee Baveza,
Yes,
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Scalpa,
Yes.
trustee Francis,
Yes.
5-0.
Motion passes 5-0. Officially, welcome to the village. Under resolutions.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, it was removed. Approval of an item was removed from the ordinance under 6C, previously read about the taller fence. A resident wanted to remove that.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this is 6C. It's a fence variation, VO2 2018 at 3 Morgan Court. The petitioner is petitioning for this variance to install a fence that is taller than 5 feet around a pool in his backyard. The essential basics of the petition are that the fence, a portion of the fence, I should say, is going to be installed on a slope leading into a drainage easement. And so the slope is severe enough in an area where if you were standing on one side of the fence, it would not be tall enough per the International Pool and Spa Code. The International Pool and Spa Code states that a fence must be at least 4 feet tall in order to comply with the safety requirements. However, if we built a fence that was 4 feet tall, if we built a fence that was taller than 5 feet is the only way that the petitioner could have a fence that both complies with the safety of being that 4 feet tall, so thus the variation. There was some discussion about the visibility of the fence in the rear yard. It's visible via it's Royal Drive. There are not many trees in this area, particularly because it's in a drainage easement, and so there was concern from the residents in the area that the fence should be built in a certain manner as to reduce the visibility of the fence to drive-by neighbors or other people living within the area. And so there were several conditions placed on this variation that are still before you in the ordinance. The first is the fence height shall not exceed the necessary height required to comply with the International Pool and Spa Code's requirement of a 4-foot tall fence around a pool. So if the minimum height that you needed to build that would be 5.5 feet tall, it should be 5.5 feet tall. If it needed to be 6 feet tall, it should be 6 feet tall. So whatever that math works out to be, so we get at least 4 feet tall on one side, no taller on the other side. The second is that the fence shall be made of metal. There was concerns that a wood fence, because it's in a drainage easement, might rot faster or not keep its shape as easy or be as durable, so the fence shall be made of metal. And finally, the dimension of the fence shall be 4 inches of open space with slats not to exceed 1.5 inches in width. So again, these are the 3 conditions that were recommended by residents and adopted by the Plan Commission and are before you today as part of the ordinance. I'll be happy to answer any further questions you have.
What is the backyard fence height?
Backyard fence height is normally 5 feet tall.
5 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
Any questions or discussion?
I'm curious to hear from the resident.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
I'm curious to hear from the resident
Yes, the resident who opposed it, would you like to address the board?
Not opposing it, I just didn't have the backup, but I
Oh.
want to make sure the planning commission put in the stipulations that we had asked for at the planning commission meeting, that was not visible on this. So I just want to make sure it was metal, not wood, and that it was not a, what I call a stockade type fence. It was more of a ornamental wrought ironish looking concept, so, because you can see it on all directions of Roy, coming up and down. It's not a backyard fence, it's a neighborhood fence. And that was my concern.
Well, hopefully that was picked up on the microphone well enough.
All conditions confirmed.
Okay, well, good. Okay, then in that case, may I have a motion to approve 6C?
So moved.
Second, roll call, please.
Trustee Francis,
I made the motion.
trustee Model,
Yes.
trustee Paveza, no, trustee Scalpa, I'm sorry,
Yes.
trustee Matal,
Yes.
trustee Paveza,
Yes.
trustee Francis.
Yes.
5-0.
Sometimes think you have the hardest job.
Okay, under resolution, 7A. Consideration of adoption of resolution of appreciation recognizing retirement after 30 years of dedicated service to the village of Burr Ridge. Sandra Carmen, otherwise known as Sandy Carmen.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We wanted to not have this on the consent agenda so we could bring attention to it. Unfortunately, Sandy could not make it here tonight. She wanted to be here, but was unable to. But I just wanted to recognize Sandy. She's actually been here 30, it'll be 30 years coming up the end of June, and she is retiring. She's been our payroll clerk, so she's made sure we all got our paychecks over the years and handled other employee benefits. And was always the person that we could go to with answers or with questions, answers to our questions. And I just wanted to be sure that we thanked Sandy for her dedication to the village, to the residents and the employees of the village for all these many years.
Sure. Anyone else? I too would like to add to that. There's, I don't think there's anybody that I knew their first name before I knew hers. I mean, they knew years before, and the chief, of course, but Sandy is just a wonderful person. And everybody, of course, she's in payroll, so everybody sucks up to her. No, she was, but she's wonderful. Has been here 30 years, one of the longest employees I think we've ever had, and we'll miss her dearly. She's a great person, and gives great hugs, and she's just the village is gonna miss her. There is a retirement party for her. I believe it's on June 29th.
Right,
At
it'll
12
be
noon.
lunchtime.
If anybody would like to attend that, by all means, come join us. Especially the board. So, but all's welcome, and thank you, Sandy. May I have a? Oh, I guess it's not really consideration. No, it is resolution.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Scalpa.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Trustee Model.
Yes.
Trustee Paveza.
Yes.
Trustee Matal.
Yes.
5-0.
All right. And under considerations, we have 8A, continued discussion regarding petition from restaurant owners to allow video gambling in Burr Ridge. Trustee Paveza? Trustee Paveza?
Well,
You'd mentioned.
hear from the audience first, no?
Okay. Well, anybody else? You want to fully explain this?
Yeah, I could give a brief background. The village received a petition from restaurant owners signed by 9 representatives of 9 different restaurants in the village back in March of this year, and requesting that the village board consider lifting your prohibition on video gambling in restaurants and other liquor license establishments in the village. Given the receipt of a petition, we were obligated and willing to consider this request from our businesses. This was originally on your agenda in April. At that time, the village board asked for more information about video gambling, what's allowed, what's not allowed. revenues, typical revenues that are generated in other villages, similar in the area of Burr Ridge. And we've provided some information, some general background information for you, which was in the agenda packet and posted on our website. And so we're bringing this back for further discussion. We also sent notifications to, as directed by the board, we notified all liquor license holders in the village of tonight's meeting. And we also notified representatives of all homeowners associations. And of course, as always, the agenda was posted on our website, and we made every effort to make people aware that this was a consideration. We did also receive, in your packet, you have 21 email replies to our notifications. I received 10 more that we produced hard copies for you that I got over the weekend and today. Of those 31 that we received, I believe there were 3 in favor of it, including 1 restaurant owner, so 2 residents, 1 restaurant owner in favor, indicating their support of lifting the prohibition, and then the rest, some 28 email replies that were opposed to lifting the ban on video gambling in Burr Ridge.
Can you give some preliminary, just some highlights of the research?
Sure, I can lift that up on the screen here. It was first permitted in the state of Illinois in 2009. Municipalities were allowed to opt out. Burr Ridge opted out in 2010. Village Board approved an ordinance opting out and prohibiting video gambling. Only businesses that hold liquor licenses may have video gambling. There are 20 such businesses in Burr Ridge. Under our authority to issue liquor licenses, the village can prohibit video gambling parlors and otherwise limit the types of business that are allowed to have video gambling. The maximum gambling license fee is dictated by the state, and it's $25, at least for non-home rule municipalities like Burr Ridge. You can establish a separate liquor license fee for such businesses. Most villages charge, or most of our liquor licenses are in the $2,000 to $2,500 range. Per state law, receipts from video gambling, 35% goes to the business, 35% to the terminal machine owner, 25% to the state of Illinois, and 5% to the local government. I would also add to that the business does not own the video gambling machines. There's a separate owner. They get 35% of the revenue. The business gets 35%, and again, 5% to the local government. The Illinois Gaming Board website has a complete listing of revenues that are generated in each municipality. For the entire state of Illinois, municipalities received an average of $9,600 per year, or for the most recent year, for each gaming establishment. So if you had 2 gaming establishments, it'd be $18,000 to $20,000 a year. But it was about just over $9,500 for 1 gaming establishment per year per municipality. In DuPage County, and also including some of our neighboring Cook County municipalities, the average receipt was closer to $16,000 per gaming establishment. We did list the DuPage County municipalities and other villages close to Burr Ridge that allow video gambling. Those that do not include Clarendon Hills, Hinsdale, Oak Brook, LaGrange, and Western Springs. A maximum of 5 video gambling terminals are permitted in any one business. They must be located in an area that is restricted to persons at least 21 years of age. It must always be within view of one employee that is at least 21 years of age. For a business that restricts attendance to patrons 21 or older, a separate restricted area is not required. The hours of operation for video gambling may not exceed the hours for the liquor license. municipality may restrict video gambling establishments that have held liquor license for at least 1 year. In other words, a business would have to be in operation with a liquor license for 1 year before they were allowed to have video gambling. That's allowed. It's not required, but is allowed as a local municipal regulation. They may also be classified as a special use, and you may restrict terminals and any advertisement signs to internal locations. In other words, not allow advertisement of video gambling from the outside of the business for the public. Finally, state law prohibits video gambling within 100 feet of a school or place of worship. The municipality may increase that separation if determined, but could not eliminate that separation requirement. Those are just some of the general parameters. If there's any questions about that, I'll try to answer it, or I can come back with you with additional information as may be needed.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the residents, I'm sorry.
We have a list of those that
The
will talk.
speakers?
No.
Thank you. Okay, first off, is there anyone that would anyone that's not on the list that would like to address the board, add their name to the list? Okay. Bill, okay. I think I recognize the other guy. No, I'm sorry. You'll be last. Since you were second, or so. Okay, Stuart Hansen.
All right, Jim, those are the questions on the school committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Jose Marinas. Yes, please come to the microphone. Oh, I'm sorry, is this a residents only and then non-residents, or is it?
It's up to you.
Okay,
He's a business owner.
okay, fine.
Hi, Jose Marines, owner of the business Porterhouse Steaks and Seafood. We've been in that building for the last 9 years, and it has been really tough to stay competitive with the businesses right next to us, which is Madison's. And we have tried to get this video gambling for a while, and it finally came up, and I have to come and say a little bit about it. We have our regular customers that they come, they like our food, they are in our establishment. And one of the things that they mention often is that they have to leave their cars and go across the parking lot and go into Madison's and play a little bit. And I always wonder, how much more will they leave in the establishment that we own and not having to drive or move away from our establishment? And I'm sorry, I'm going around. But when we had been trying to have this extra, increase this revenue, sorry, I think that it will bring a huge increase of income to the city of Burridge by allowing the video gambling. It is frustrating when you hear, when you see the numbers about these other places that have these licenses. I hope that you consider and give us that chance to bring more income into Burridge.
So you just took over 3 months ago, you said?
No, 9 years ago.
Oh, 9 years ago, okay.
Yes. And it's been very tough. It's been very tough to stay competitive. I mean, we have gone to the having all these specials, you know. The restaurant business is tough. It's tough, let alone having to deal with this little situation, as I was explaining to you. If it is possible, and I know that it could be, and give us a hand by letting us have that license. Thank you.
Jose. Appreciate it. Gene Halloran?
Hi, Gene Halloran, Countywide Merchant, County Line Square, 208 Burridge Parkway. Like Jose, we've been in there for 9 years. We got the petition signed. We've got a few people here tonight. For some reason, some of them couldn't make it for one reason or another. But everyone on that petition is still interested because I visited them all this morning. Other than Capri, I did not see Gigi. When you look at the numbers, you know, I've looked at, like, I saw the number for Countryside, Village of Countryside, $275,000 for the Village of Countryside from Video Poker. Now that's taking their 5% or whatever the number is. And if in Burridge, you could tax us an entertainment tax it another 5%, you could double that. You know, you're talking about sewers that aren't working or water mains, 300,000 here, there. The McDonald's right lane, turning lane, whatever. You could earmark it for the police pension. And for my benefit, it'll be a shot in the arm. You retain business, you get more people, you get sales tax. Everyone's doing it around us. I know, you do it if everyone's doing it, I don't know. But I think the numbers, when I see the numbers, it seems to make sense. So I think it's a huge consideration and something to think about. Maybe not vote on it now, but I think do some more research and see what you come up with. But you know, some of these villages are making money and you could double it. I mean, I think everyone, every restaurant, or they would be willing to double the tax on that for the village. Either it be the, you know, the liquor license or pay another 5% from the video tax, and you could double that. You could earmark that for, I don't know, whatever you need it for. But, and then even the sales tax, more business, generate more business for us. We stay happy, we pay our bills, you get more sales tax. I think it's a win-win-win. That's my pitch. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Gene. John Bittner.
There's a couple of things maybe you do know and maybe you might not know. But downstate, there's a home rule on the board in November to be voted on to bypass all counties about gambling, and that you can just do it and not ask for permission. Because you may not want the revenue, but the state of Illinois does. And I just talked to somebody downstate 2 weeks ago, and they told me that's going to be on the voting register in November. There's a lot of people in town that like gambling. They enjoy it. My wife being one of them. I don't gamble because I once owned a gambling facility in Illinois, and I didn't like what happened. That's a whole different issue. But I don't gamble. The revenues are beneficial. Rosemont Horizon has the most successful gambling casino right now in the United States, including Vegas, for ROI versus square footage. Those benefits are substantial, and they bring people into this town, and people, we could get them to get it into the hotels, they don't even live here, and they're gonna give us revenue. People are trying to get it into airports. They're actually trying to do that in O'Hare Airport and trying to pass that for a few years. That's gonna happen, because revenues are important. This state is one of the worst states, top 3 in financial trouble. We've got to look at this thing on the basis of we have to support the people who have spent a lot of money to put businesses in this community. The restaurateurs. And if you don't help them, if you can't help Porterhouse get a license, then let them annex into Willowbrook. You're not doing them any good to let them go bankrupt. So let him get his gambling. And let him annex. But you can't judge and be controlling of somebody else's business and their profitability. You have to give them the opportunity to be successful. And by not doing that, you're also not allowing your village to be successful. What percentage of our retail has never been sold or rented out? 15, 20%? If you have 30 people up there that said they didn't want it, there's 11,000 people in this town that didn't care because they didn't say a thing. More people voted for one other thing I standed out a while ago than voted for you people. Less than 15% of the people came out to vote. That means 85% of the people don't care. So let's care about the retail people that are here and who have spent money. Thank you.
Annabelle McFarland.
Good evening. So I am Annabelle McFarland, president of Carriage Way, and we did forward your email. So I did receive responses, and the reason I've come is because it was only fair to the residents of our neighborhood to represent what I've heard. Clearly, I think, going to oppose everything we've heard so far, but only because I can tell you that, and again, I don't begrudge anyone in business to make a living. However, a majority of the respondents that said, well, absolutely not, many of them said it because they felt that it was counter to what Burridge stood for. It was counter to the image that we were trying to portray. And they asked that we behave like Hinsdale, Elmhurst, and the communities that we try to assimilate with. That's really the biggest response I received, was basically that it would devalue Burridge. Is that true? I mean, that's a perception, right? And from my personal perspective, for what it's worth, I've been to a location that had them, and I thought it looked tacky, but that's my opinion. I think it looks tacky in a restaurant. I think that's a fair opinion. Should we do it? Well, what'd you say, $9,600 per business that has them, right? That's the revenue for us locally, correct?
Oh, 16,000 in DuPage County, assuming that's.
Well, but the other number was 9,600.
Right.
What was that number for?
Statewide, you're right.
Okay.
Right.
So there's no guarantee at 16 for us. So I guess the only thing I'm asking is, while I do believe businesses have a right to survive and thrive, absolutely, I'd like it to be done, though, in a way that's consistent with the surrounding area, what the community expects, and I understand that we need money, but that we consider fairly what residents have to say. I only gave them 2 weeks' notice. I only forwarded your email. And I think I said, please read the below, and then I think I gave a follow-up email. I have to tell you that the response from those who did care was quick. That's not to say that it maybe is representative of the full community. The full community, there were a couple of people who thought, well, maybe I want to know more about this. One person said, yeah, okay. And then the rest, which is in line with the numbers that were reported. So you received 31, right, responses. 3 were in favor. 2 were residents, 1 was a restaurant owner. I'd say that roughly that ratio mimics what I experienced in terms of responses. I mean, I didn't come prepared to say if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I can tell you that within a restaurant it is tacky. That's just my perception. Everybody has a right to their own. I feel for the businesses that are asking for it because they feel that it's necessary to survive. I understand this. I don't know where the balance is yet, but certainly I felt that it was important to come here and to say, in Carriage Way, of the people who answered, they were not happy about it. And I thought you should know that.
Joe and Kay Mahoney.
I'm Joe Mahoney. I'm secretary of Carriageway is well represented tonight. I'm secretary of the Carriageway Club Homeowners Association, which represents the 37 townhomes in the southeast corner of Burr Ridge. I agree with everything that's been said here. I think it would be tacky. I don't like the idea of having that type of gambling going on in our local restaurants here. But more importantly, in order to get the revenue that these municipalities are getting, people have to lose money. I have here the Illinois Gaming Board Video Gaming Report for just the month of April 2018. Almost $1.6 billion was gambled in 6,400 or so establishments. 1.47 approximately dollars were paid out. That means 125.5 million was lost by the people who were in the establishments gambling. The state gets 30% of that, and they give 5% of that 30% to the municipalities. Well, the state got 32 million in their coffers. The municipalities got 6 million in their coffers. And if you go on the site, you can get the detailed report for all of the communities. And to go back to Countryside, for example, in the month of April, they took in $6.7 million. They paid out $6.2 million. They lost, the people who bet, lost $500,000, $514,000. But Countryside got $25,700 or thereabouts. And if you look at all the numbers, the municipality gets approximately 4 to 5% of what the people lose by gambling in those municipalities. So for every 100,000 that is lost, you're going to get 4,000, maybe 5,000. $500,000, you get 85 grand. The only way you get it is by people losing money. That's ridiculous. I'd rather see the sales tax go up. Find another way to raise revenue. This is wrong.
Gary Grasso. Former mayor of.
Yeah, and Mayor, when this was first discussed, Gary Grasso, 6030 South Grant. Continued discussion. I think it really takes a lot more than tonight. I think it would be a fundamental change in the village for all the reasons George just pointed out. When I sat there, I said that I thought it was not if the village was going to go there, it really is a revenue consideration for the village also. We didn't have nearly the financial trouble that every village is going to continue to have as years go on, despite how well this board or any board ever administers itself. The fact of the matter is that this state really runs the finances of this of the state, and I know it from the county level also, DuPage County level as a board member, that there is very little that you can really do at the end of the day to raise revenue. You're a non-home rule community. The vast majority of municipalities are non-home rule. There's only one county in all of the 109 counties of Illinois that is a home rule county, and guess which that one is. And so for all the monies you heard, and it could be in the neighborhood of $15,000 per license, there are 9 petitioners times 9. That's a lot of money for a village to consider when you're squeezed. But to George's point, it's going to take a lot of losing in Burr Ridge to get there. And so it is a philosophical decision for you to make. And so the other part of it, the tackiness and all of that, I don't know how true that necessarily is. In some places it can be, and of course it's a matter of taste, and everybody's taste is a little different. So if the village is going to continue discussion, because I don't think it's up for a decision tonight, maybe it is or isn't, but you certainly should know if Porterhouse wants it and a wine merchant wants it, two fine establishments here, or Capri wants it, I'd like to see what they're going to do, to put it in their restaurant, or put it in their facility. I'd like to see. The business has become so refined. I think someone pointed out that the terminal owners are a separate entity, and they make a lot of the money. They now have it honed to where they know how much square feet they need for you're only allowed 5 machines. How to do it and set it up, and I'm sure they'll make it, quote, as less tacky or as pretty as you could possibly want it. So if you're really going to consider it before you at all, I think you'd have to see what the physical impact is. But it is a philosophical problem because it's going to set a tone. And so the people in Illinois have decided that Illinois is a gambling state. It's been the law of the land since the early 90s and continues to grow. And I think as somebody pointed out, you have casinos in this state that are as competitive and profitable as anywhere in the nation. And one of the biggest marketing places for Las Vegas is not only the Midwest, but the Chicagoland area. And I'd like to think that probably a lot of people go and gamble and have a good time, but they want to go somewhere to do it. So the analogy to a casino is a bad analogy because that isn't what you're asking for. If you want to get in your car and drive to the casino, you can do that. But the question is it going to be right for the restaurants? So it's a philosophical decision. If you then want to go a little further, I'd like to know what it's going to look like in Capri or any place else. And third, unfortunately, you have to think about the revenue side of it. But is it worth the revenue when it's going to take that much losing? So I think it's going to continue. I think that one of the points is that the state may just allow it to happen because they want the revenue. There's already been discussions that the gaming will be expanded once, when and if the new governor is a Democrat. There's been discussion that everybody needs revenue. And gaming is one of the places they're going to go. There's been no talk, of course, of cutting expenses, but there's been talk of gambling and even legalization of marijuana because that's the new, that's going to save everything. And pension plans and everything that we all know will strangle the state. And I take a very negative view to the finances of the state, and I think it's going to have to collapse. But you are being asked to consider something that is intrinsic and probably valuable to some of the businesses. I think some of the businesses will not want to do it. And yet you don't know what the aesthetics of it are, and you'd have to. But philosophically, you'd have to decide, do we need the money enough to make that cultural change in the village? And that's hard for you guys, because I know, and I include you in the guys, okay? Because I have to be very careful nowadays. Who knows what you say wrong? So I think it's a very fundamental change in the village if you go there, but I can understand the consideration of the money because I know that that's part of what you need to do, is decide, well, how is this village going to maintain itself? How are you going to meet the pensions? How are you going to meet the salaries and the payrolls? How are you going to meet the services? And I think we did a study, Al, back in 2008 where we said the pension system is growing so fast around the state that we could actually be open for business just to pay pensions in another. Then it was about 25 years, but now it's about another 15 years. So it's all on you guys. It's easy to say, well, let's not do it right now, but I think you should have the considered decision, what is the cultural impact on the village? Do we need the money, or should we continue it to another day? But if we are going to have it, what is it going to look like within the facilities? That's why you guys get paid the big bucks. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, husband of former trustee Janet Grasso. Okay, and Bill Ibino? Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, thank you. Bill Ibino, and I've lived in Burridge for 29 years and enjoyed my time here. I just want to say that I want to go on record by saying I'm opposed to video gambling. I think it sends the wrong message about the suburb and gives the wrong atmosphere to the suburb. Even recently, my wife and I, we were driving home from a trip and we wanted to get a bite to eat, and we pulled into a restaurant a few suburbs over, and we noticed a sign that says, "We have video gambling." We looked at one another and said, "Nope." And we didn't even get out of the car, and we drove right out of the parking lot. And had they not had video gambling, we'd have gone in there and patronized the restaurant. I think the problem with video gambling are many. Just a few are the real possibility of losing money, and maybe lots of money, for people who can least afford it. It's not very family friendly because some of your family members may not agree with your gambling habits. The atmosphere of the restaurant changes, and gambling tarnishes the suburb, I think. I understand that the restaurants want to increase their business and get more people through the door, but video gambling is not the only way. I look at the list and I say to some of the restaurants, maybe you need to up your game. Maybe you need to improve your atmosphere or improve your food or improve your quality. That too gets people through the door. I've owned my own company for 35 years and been fortunate with being successful. But what I've learned over that time is that much of the success, or part of my success, was the things I said yes to, and we did. But even more of my success was the things that I said no to, that we did not do. And I strongly suggest you say no to video gambling. I think we owe a lot to you, Board of Trustees. You have hard work, and your decisions have made Burridge grow, Burridge beautiful, Burridge a desirable place to live, and also a classy place to live. And I ask that you don't change that and don't have video gambling. Thanks.
Oh, well, there's a... Yes, go ahead.
I just didn't hear anybody mention these, and so we don't want it to be...
I'm sorry, your name?
Susan Andrees. I've lived in Carriageway for 32 years, and I appreciate your service. I served on the Pleasantdale School Board for 8 years, a number of years ago. I guess I haven't heard this point, and I want to bring up that we are near 2 interstates, and I'm very concerned about people coming off the highways and the byways to come to Burridge to do video gambling while they're eating or they're buying something if they're in their hotel. So I think it's a security issue. I think that's going to be a cost to Burridge. I think there's other costs. We've talked about the cost of individuals gambling. We haven't talked about the costs of this video gaming. And I think that needs to be part of the discussion when we talk about the revenue, in terms of security, in terms of administrative costs, whatever else. So, thank you.
Any other last minute additions? Okay. We're going to move it back to the board now, after which time the residents are not going to be able to participate. We need to make this a board meeting, unlike a town hall meeting. It'll be discussed at the board level, and then we'll make a decision. So, it's at the board. Trustee Paveza.
Well, in 2010, when we reviewed this item of video gambling, we spent considerable time on it. And after we resolved everything back then, the board had voted unanimously not to have video gambling in Burridge, and it has stayed this way for over 8 years. And it wasn't until one of the residents said that a couple of the restaurant bars were interested, and would we take another look at it? And we instructed our village administrator to look into it. You've seen some of the information that he provided, but besides the information, I was surprised. I thought that a lot of the hotels would be interested in that, those that had bars. And after reviewing everything, I was a little surprised. The great majority of residents are definitely against it. The businesses, except for 2.5, one, maybe two really wanted it, the rest of them didn't care. And it wasn't a prime item for them. And I just wanted to mention that, like I said, I was surprised. And there's one business that I really sort of feel for, because he's next door to a business that has video gambling, so it's a tough call on him. But the majority of the businesses could care less, and the majority of the residents are definitely against it. So my thoughts would be not to change our law that says we don't have video gambling.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Gene, love you dearly, but you're not allowed to speak out from the audience. And I will, I'll address some of those too, matter of fact, but this is a board meeting. Al, anything, were you finished?
Yeah.
Trustee Francis?
Yes, thank you. Just want to thank Mr. Bittner for circulating this petition and coming to the aid of the businesses and the restaurants. Secondly, I want to thank the residents that did speak out, that did come here tonight to speak, that did send emails, that did respond to their homeowners associations, and then their homeowners associations did represent them here and in emails. So we do talk about 31 emails that were received prior in our packet, and some of those were from husbands and wives. So those are 2 residents and 2 voters that were against this, not 1. And there's a couple of homeowners associations, and they're also representing the residents. One was Ruth Lake Ridge, and I think the gentleman here from Carriageway Townhomes, speaking out for the residents from the majority of the responses that they received from the residents speaking against this. So, and then another supplemental 10 emails we received tonight opposing this as well. So, thank you for all your comments. I appreciate it. Doug, can you call up that file for me, please? Put together a real quick presentation here about video gambling. If you click on the second slide. So, I've been told by a former village president, mayor, and trustee that safety of the residents is the #1 concern as a trustee. So, let's talk about crime and crime increase. One of the residents here did speak about crime. A study by economists at the University of Illinois, and the first page of the study shown to the right, sorry about the bad snip, but that's the best resolution I can get on it. This was a study that they performed of crime committed since looking at crime committed in municipalities that have video gaming before video gaming was enacted and after. And what they found is on the next slide. It's a 47-page study, and it needs some sleeping material. You got to read this. But the study concluded that within blocks closest to the video gaming establishment, the authors from this University of Illinois study found violent crime, most notably robbery, increased by 13.1%. There's a statistically significant increase in aggravated battery, people fighting, 6%, and sexual assault, 14%, nearby these video gaming establishments. There's an increase in property crime, mostly driven by an increase in motor vehicle thefts of 12.3%. Burglary and larceny increased by 5.6% and 4.8% respectively. This study was by this gentleman, Nicholas, Andres, and Ignacio, in August of 2017. So this is relevant. This is recent. In Illinois. These are municipalities in Illinois that they looked at. The study can be found here. If you would like the link, I'd be happy to send it to you if you want to read it yourself. So again, safety is our prime concern here as trustees of the village. What's not mentioned in this study is the social impact. They talked about criminal impact, not social impact. There's a social impact to gambling as well. And that social impact is bankruptcies, divorces, lackluster performance at work, distractions at work, thinking about your next gaming fix, college savings being squandered at the video gambling terminal. These are all social impacts that aren't measured by this study, and they're a real impact as well. We all know that. If you go to the next study, next slide, please. Thank you. So, a list of communities was provided to us of establishments that allow gaming around us, and there was 4 or 5 that were not allowing gaming around us. But I went and looked at the website, and this is the Illinois Gaming Board, and you can get a whole list of every community in Illinois which allows it, prohibits it. But these are the suburbs in the Chicago area that prohibit it. Bannockburn, Barrington, Clarendon Hills, Glencoe, Hinsdale, LaGrange, Lincolnshire, Lincolnwood, Oak Brook, Western Springs, Wayne, and Winnetka. All upscale communities. All upscale communities like Burr Ridge with estate-like homes. Wayne, 5-acre minimum lot sizes. Horse Country, Oak Brook, Lincolnwood, all upscale communities. Communities that we envision ourselves to be a close resemblance of. So it's our image, it's safety to our residents, and it's the social impact of video gaming. And when I see residents writing emails and say, I vehemently oppose video gaming, I will not go to an establishment in Burr Ridge that has video gaming, well, there's a significant loss to the restaurants and establishments in this village because of that. So that's all the comments I have for now. Thank you.
Trustee Tall?
I'd like to thank the restaurant owners and the residents for sharing their views with us. In my mind, I think there are 2 separate issues. One, do we adopt video gambling as a source of revenue as a village? Second is, how do we help restaurants thrive in this community? So regarding the first piece, whether we should adopt video gambling as a source of revenue, every time I am at the traffic light on Burr Ridge Parkway and County Line Road, I feel so proud to see that new business, the Ability Labs, come in. It's like a state-of-the-art facility. And that's kind of the image that I would like to have for Burr Ridge, and I think a lot of residents echoed that as well. So I think we need to seek more businesses which are state-of-the-art and, help Burr Ridge become the kind of community that, as Trustee Francis just said, a really nice upscale neighborhood. And the second point is for the restaurants that are having a hard time, they feel that they're losing their business to other restaurants which do offer video gambling. I look at some of the restaurants that are thriving in the village of Burr Ridge and, see what are they doing that's really helping them. If you look at Hampton Inn, it's doing really well. They have a musician there from 5 to 7 every day. Cooper's Hawk, they have a lot of special offers. Same with Walk and Fire, they have a lot of special offers. So maybe just kind of getting a little creative and trying new things might help. But we do appreciate the restaurants being in our village and would like to help them thrive.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yeah, it's something that we have to consider. It's currently banned, and we're looking to lift the ban. I can honestly say I'm disappointed in the participation of the restaurant owners. I mean, it's easy to sign a petition. More work to come here and argue your point to having video gaming. So I don't see it as something that all our restaurateurs wanting in their restaurants. I go to restaurants with my family to break bread with my friends and my family and spend time with them. That's me personally. I'm not a gambler, and I think it's inconsistent with who Burr Ridge is, which is a very special place. I don't think it's something that belongs in our restaurants or in our town. I know I would have a hard time bringing my family to a restaurant with video gaming. in the facility. So that's, those are my thoughts.
Trustee Model?
So I certainly also appreciate the comments made by the residents as well as by the businesses, and I'm cognizant this is a sensitive issue for both sides. Regarding some of the comments made maybe towards certain businesses to look for something new, I trust that they're trying. They know their business better than we do, and I trust that they're trying. And I'm also cognizant that they have financial limitations as well. You know, I would love to make my business beautiful and shiny and new, but it takes money to do that, and we can't always afford to do that, so we deal with what we have. So I'm cognizant of that. You know, I'm also surprised too that, you know, they signed the petition and they're not here tonight. I'm wondering, were these businesses not serious, or were they afraid to come here for some reason? You know, were they afraid of retribution or something? I don't know, but it was funny that they signed it and now there's not a lot of support, which puts us in a position of it's difficult to support people that don't come and speak for themselves. You know, I'm also cognizant, though. I appreciated what Gary Grasso said about, you know, revenue and the situation for the village. I would be curious to see, you know, if this was going to bring in $100,000 or $200,000 a year, what type of a tax increase would it take to make up for that kind of revenue loss, you know, for our residents? I think we should be fully informed about the pros and cons. We're hearing a lot about the cons of it, which I understand those. I'm cognizant of that, but I don't know, you know, if residents would be willing to support a tax increase instead of video gambling to fund the services that we desire in this village. Good police protection, good roads, good sidewalks and pathways. Those don't come free. And whenever we talk about raising fees, there's also a large number of residents who come out and vehemently oppose those things also. So I think it is important that we make a fully informed decision here.
Anybody else? Well, I normally remain relatively quiet about these things until, and of course, you know, the board ultimately makes these decisions. But occasionally I like to speak up, and want to kind of full disclosure, and also want to give you everybody a little bit more background as to what I've been writing down for the last 10 or 15 minutes, and as well as people I've been talking to. To begin with, I love Porterhouse, love County Wine Merchant. County Wine Merchant is my favorite place to go. My opponent knew it in the last election. They sent people there to spy on me. Okay, literally, I was told that, and it's certainly one of my favorite places to go. So but this is not about friendship. This is about what's good for the village, and ironically, if I had a couple businesses that I could just like pick and choose which ones could use it, Porterhouse would certainly be one of them, because it's on the outskirts. I think, and as a rumor had, they had gambling there before it was legal, long before you owned it. And a couple of the outliers, I can kind of see it. But I think three of the biggest lies in the world, or in this state, are that all of our educational issues and pension problems are going to be fixed with the Illinois State Lottery, casinos, and video gambling. Those are. Oh, I remember the casinos especially. I mean, every town was just supposed to just become so robust, and all of our problems are gonna be healed because of that. That has been one of the biggest lies. When I'm listening to everybody here tonight, I heard, you know, always weigh pros and cons. Here are the pros are increased revenue and helping those businesses, which we know I'm a businessman first. I'd love to help businesses, and everybody knows that. I was even criticized for that in the beginning, you know, that I was too business friendly, but I vehemently was a perfect word, because I've been using that for weeks. I'm vehemently against the idea of gambling in this village. I think it would be tacky, devalue, clearly. I think it would devalue the properties. This is wrong. I thought it was a great statement tonight. Of course, Gary Grasso said that's fundamental change and philosophical change. It certainly would be. It would be a huge change from we wouldn't be like Bannockburn and Hinsdale and Clarendon Hills and Winnetka and Glencoe and all those cities, all those villages and towns that don't have it. There's a reason why they don't have it. All right. Also, I have to say it takes a lot of losing first. I know firsthand, and my father was a gambler. You know, I got out of a speeding ticket because the cop knew my father from playing poker. You know, but I knew him from the horse races to whatever. I've been around it all my life. It's not a pretty picture, but a lot of and we lost a lot. I'm sure. Of course, he claimed he won, but that's. I go to Vegas. I'll say somebody has to pay for the lights, and that's the people that are losing the money. Village is a classy place to live. It is a very special place. County Wine Merchant makes Burr Ridge a very special place. It's like Cheers. You go there and you feel like you know everybody, and it's just there's no other place like it probably in the suburbs. Capri, actually, I will say, I also like to say that I called just a few of the restaurants that are on this list, and though they signed the petition, they were not going to put video gambling in their restaurants. Capri is an example of it. In order to do that, he would have to take out tables or lose revenue from alcohol and for food, and he has no intention. He may have signed the petition to be nice, but he's not going to add it. There was also La Cabanita was another example of that. Dow is another example of it. Though they signed it, they're not looking to add it. And I applaud them for wanting to help out fellow restaurateurs. I think I didn't go to all of them, but I'd love to help every one of them. But I think it would be a strategic and sad mistake for the village. It would be a bad statement. It would be a philosophical change, sort of cultural change that would be detrimental to the masses compared to the few that would benefit. And that's all I have to say about that subject. I appreciate everybody's comments tonight, and whether are there any further discussion or what's anybody would like to add anything? Trustee Paveza?
Well, I'm not adding anything. This is just conversation, talk, discussion. We right now do not allow video gambling. So unless we change our law, the law stays in that there is no video gambling in Burr Ridge.
And what would the state change that? Would that supersede it? Do you know?
Yeah, the state could. Right now, they allow video gambling, but they allow municipalities to opt out, and we opted out. They could change that law, and Mr. Bittner referenced possible pending legislation that would eliminate our ability to opt out. But currently, we can't opt out, and if you take no action tonight, the prohibition will remain.
In reality, another risk is that if, let's say, one of our restaurants does not add it, who's to say someone doesn't go right next door that offers alcohol and gambling and takes drinking business away from that restaurant? That could certainly happen. And why does you have to serve alcohol in order to gamble? For some reason, something's wrong with that picture. And I don't do one at all, and I barely do the other one. I'm practically a teetotaler. So not going to be a popular place for me. And yes, I would skip a place like one of the residents said. Trustee Model?
Just if the proposed state law passes, or another one like it or similar to it that overruled our authority, would that then preclude us from capturing revenue if businesses start adding it, or not? We don't know what the law says right now.
Right. It would depend on the legislation. I don't know.
Right, because if it's coming and we have no control over it, then I definitely want to make sure we're getting money. But hopefully that's not happening. But so again, to me, I just feel that there's I hear the opposition. I don't. This is an uphill battle for those that want it, but I think we should make sure we understand all the angles and what it would take. So.
That would be, that would help us if our future is in the hands of legislators in Springfield. And And government is like a tapeworm, okay? You know, that, they just suck in more money. And they, especially Illinois stuff, they have, of course, no reforming, as Gary Grasso said, no reforming how we're spending it. That's, drives me wild. But, and I'm trying to get away from politics, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, because especially after what I saw happen last time, so. All right, any other comments? Are there any, would we need official motion or actually, really no motion to extend it?
If there's no motion, nothing happens.
I know it's still a consideration.
You're free to make a motion to continue the existing ordinance, I suppose, if you wanted to go on record, or you can just take no action. Or you can direct staff to prepare an ordinance lifting the prohibition.
So what would the trustees like to do?
Nothing. We already have the ordinance that we're opted out of it, so just go on to the next item on the menu.
Take no action.
Go to 8B.
I'm probably the only one that wants to keep learning more. Again, I'm not necessarily in favor of it, but I would like to find out what type of a tax increase would be necessary to make up for those lost revenues if we ever had to, and what the proposed law in Springfield says, because I'm concerned that is going to pass in the future, and if it cuts us out of it, I want to understand that before we say no. So
That'd be a hard thing for the state to do, saying anybody who cuts them out currently cannot get, I mean, that's.
Springfield's done crazy things, as you and I both agree.
They have.
I just don't know, again, until we know, it's hard to make a fully informed decision.
I guess we'll, as Ted Kennedy once said, we'll drive off the bridge when we come to it. It's an East Coast joke, okay?
I could certainly find out more about that, the pending legislation that was referenced, and get that out to the board. And I should add that nothing prevents you at any time from bringing this up again if no action is taken tonight.
Okay. End of discussion. Moving on to other considerations for announcement, deliberation, and/or discussion.
8B.
Yeah, 8B.
This will be very brief.
I'm sorry, it got hidden. And here I was hoping it was over. 8B, consideration of contract for GIS services.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make this as short as I can. Attached is a contract for GIS services with CloudPoint Geographics in the amount of $23,400 per year for 3 years. Recently, the village has been employing an intern in the Public Works Department to operate as our staff to manage our GIS services. We also pay a vendor called M-Power to provide we'll just call it software that we operate out of to provide the GIS that we use. We do have a public portal right now, but it's pretty rudimentary, and some of the data online is incomplete. So with the intern recently taking a full-time position at another utility, staff thought it best to go out and look for more long-term sustainable solutions to our GIS needs. And we consulted several firms, and we found that CloudPoint Geographic offered us a very nice financial package, as well as a suite of services that we don't currently enjoy. They have a focus in local government. They work with many municipalities in the Chicagoland region, all across the state as well. But the main thing that we liked about them was they were able to operate remotely from their office downstate, as well as operate within the parameters of our software that we have right now. So there was no need to buy any additional hardware, house a staff member here, things like that. We do everything kind of on an as-needed basis with them. This contract allows us to provide managed services to the community, to staff, to whoever needs the GIS services. I use this every day to look up utility lines or lot lines or things of that nature. But CloudPoint offers us more than that. We currently have $50,000 budgeted in the Information Technology Fund. So all the money that we'll be using above and beyond the $23,400 a year will be going toward improving the GIS services that we already have. Building community portals, public portals that people can use to say, what is the zoning designation of my particular home or my business? Are there any outstanding permits that I'm offered on my house right now that I've applied for? Things like that that can make the village a lot more service friendly and eliminate calls to the village hall, allow people to access information on their own, and really just be a lot more robust as a tool that we can use to provide better data, both for us as staff, for you as trustees, or for residents within the village who may need the GIS services at any point in time. So again, this is a new contract. We wanted to bring this to your attention just for your consideration. And again, the contract is approved. We simply need to authorize the contract, and we'll be starting tomorrow, actually, if you do. Again, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions, discussion?
So does this replace an employee?
Yes, it does. The employee was an intern who worked part-time. It's also replacing some of our software that we were paying for. So it's not quite spending neutral, but it's very comparable in terms of what we were spending previously.
Thank you.
Just wanted to add just basic background for the public. GIS is a geographic information system. It's a mapping software where you attach data to a map, and you're able to access data by going to the map and finding out property information off that map. It is accessible on our website currently, so the general public can access some of that data. One of my priorities when you hired me a year ago as village administrator was to upgrade our use of technology to make our services more efficient. This represents the ability, a small step, but a significant step in improving our technology, our services at virtually no additional expense. We're kind of just trading one expense for another, but we believe that this has the opportunity to significantly enhance staff's use of technology, but hopefully in the future, public use of access to our data as well. So it's a new program, and so we wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you. And we are looking for a motion to approve the contract.
So moved. Second. Please.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Beza?
Yes.
5-0.
And now, under other considerations for announcement, deliberation, and or discussion only, no action, official action will be taken. Anything else? Trustee Francis?
Two comments on two consent agenda items. I don't want to remove them, but it was a good catch by our chiller contractor to discover the need for a backflow preventer. We certainly don't want glycol going into our potable water system. Water going into the glycol system, that's okay. We can live with that, but vice versa, it's okay. Why I'm required to have a backflow preventer in my sprinkler system, I still don't agree with, but whatever. So it's a good catch. And secondly, the new police vehicle that's replacing the one that was totaled in the automobile accident, that was caused by a distracted driver, correct, Chief? And we just went through a week-long distracted driver awareness program here in the village, and I believe 200 citations were issued. And when I drive on my commute daily to work, the distracted driving, it's an epidemic on the roadways, and why there's not more accidents than there currently are is beyond me, because people are doing some crazy stuff behind the wheel with their bowl of cereal, with their curling iron, with their in-dash TVs and so forth. And so I'm glad nobody was hurt, and it just drives home the point about distracted driving and how we all need to be aware of it and do our best to avoid it. Thank you.
I just want to mention, I had opened this letter that I showed you from the post office, and I read it again carefully. It appears that the Postal Service may be surveying residents and businesses in the very near future, if I'm reading the letter correctly. And I want to let people know, if you do receive a survey for the village of Burr Ridge, to add a new zip code for this area. Hopefully you'll respond affirmatively, but please be aware that that survey might happen, again, if I'm reading this carefully, in the next 60 days, but I'll hand it off to Doug after the meeting, and if maybe it's possible to alert residents.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
businesses, everybody in Burridge, that the post office might be surveying them in the very near future. It's important to return your survey cards and hopefully choose affirmatively for the village to hopefully get its own zip code. It sounds like they're going to make a decision in about 60 days.
And let me reiterate, that's a huge news, huge information. This is the furthest we've gotten after the third attempt to get our own zip code. It's for a lot of reasons, benefit the residents, the village, and help put Burridge on the map, literally, as well as figuratively. It would be, it'd help insurance costs, it'd help identification, help with GPS. It would be a phenomenal victory for the village, and we appreciate all your efforts, Trustee Model.
Would you like me to read the letter? It's rather brief. I can read the paragraph, the relevant paragraph. No.
Want to pick a paragraph?
Well, the quick part is that the Postal Service will review your request and follow the procedures outlined for realignment of zip code boundaries, including evaluation of its existing facilities in the area from the standpoint of their ability to absorb any operational changes necessary to accommodate your request, and surveying all the affected parties if required. So again, that is the important point. Sounds like they're moving to the survey process.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Actually, that probably should cover that under the reports and communications from village officials, because we skipped over the residents' comments. Are there any residents like to address the board this time for any reason? Yes.
Mark Thomas, 7515 Drew. Two comments. One of them was regarding the GIS system. You never opened it up to the audience, but one thing I just wanted to mention was DuPage County has a GIS system. Is there any way we can just piggyback with them rather than spend the money to, have our own system?
Yes, DuPage does have their own GIS system. They provide us with things like aerial flyovers. We get those free through DuPage County. However, there are things that DuPage County does not provide us, like the Cook half of Burridge. We need to have complete access to all that data to make sure that what we have is equal throughout the entire village. Also, we are planning to collect data on things that DuPage does not collect on. And as the village administrator mentioned, we plan to roll out some technology items that DuPage does not currently provide us. So while we do have some things that we say don't create a layer for if DuPage is providing us, there's no reason to duplicate those efforts and pay for them, but we are trying to create things that they are not providing or simply can't because they don't encompass the entire village.
And my second item, Doug, if you wouldn't mind, could you bring up that photo of, our aerial photo of where the McDonald's location is going to be? This is just one little safety thing that I think that maybe the village can do with IDOT that might really help us out or help prevent problems. Oops.
You want the larger one, or is
Yeah.
that good? Is that good?
No, actually, I need to see the drive where it comes out on 83. Yeah, there you go. The one thing that kind of concerns me, or that may be a danger to people in the area, and like I said, maybe it's something that we can take care of just with a simple sign, is as people exit, if the traffic's really backed up here during the morning hours, whatnot, I can see people coming out here, going north on 83, getting in the left turn lane, pulling a U-turn to get in the opposite direction. So I don't know if a no U-turn sign exists at that point on 83, but that might be something that we might want to look into, because obviously, that could avoid accidents with people trying to get over to the far lane in order to make, to get into the turn lane to make the U-turn as well on that busy street. Thank you.
Anyone else? I am not sure if this is a great place to mention it. But I would just like to make mention that under reports and communications of village officials, I'd like to recognize the loss of one of our longest time residents and the father of one of our trustees, Guy Francis. It was if anyone's never been to a funeral of a World War II vet, it was extremely moving to see the pictures and to hear the history of and relive through his family just what impact and what we owe to the greatest generation. But that's one of the and I know how many years is he?
He's 97, almost 98.
Nice,
and
98.
And a resident here in the village for over 50 years.
Over 50 years. And, but again, our condolences, Guy. Thank you. May you rest in peace and God bless. Any non-residents like to comment? And a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee McCall?
Yes.
5-0.
The meeting